Assalamu alaikum, Khush Amdeed, and welcome to Get High 2020. My name is Muazma Zahid, and I'm the president of Pakistani Women in Computing and an engineering leader at Microsoft. I, along with a dedicated team of volunteers from PWIC, with the support of our partners and allies, welcome you to Pakistan's first ever virtual career fair, Get High 2020. Walt Disney said, "All our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them." I invite you today to take that first step, make meaningful connections to at least 3 new people, and meet at least 1 hiring representative. At PWIC, we are thankful to you to make us part of your career journey. We have a day plan full of inspirational talks, networking opportunities, and opportunity for you to connect with hiring managers and recruiters. With that, I wish you best of luck. We have got a special message from US Embassy of Pakistan. Let's connect, learn, and grow together.
Absolutely, Muazma. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome here to the first of its kind virtual job fair in Pakistan. Hopefully the first one, but not the last one of its kind. So PWIC has been planning this event for a while now, and this is what you are seeing today is part of a multi-day effort actually. And we had the same iteration for North America in the last couple of weeks, and then this is for Pakistan. So I would take this time to just walk you through the logistics and what you will see and what you can expect for today. Let me just share my screen. All right, there we go. All right, so very briefly about myself, I'm Dr. Bushra Anjum. So originally from Pakistan, did my undergraduate from Fast University, Lahore, master's from LAMS, then came to the States for my PhD degree, finished in 2012. Then I was associated with academia. Pakistan mein LAMS mein thoda padhaya, Fast Lahore mein padhaya, then came back to the US, taught at Missouri State University, made switch to the industry, worked at Amazon as a backend engineer for the Amazon Prime team, then switched careers from backend engineer to a data scientist because my PhD was in performance evaluation and queuing theory. And then taking that experience, I was then promoted to lead the data department of a San Francisco-based startup called Doximity. So currently I'm working there as the data analytics program manager. It's my privilege to be associated with Pakistani Women in Computing, and it's my honor to be here today with all of you. So very briefly, what you should expect today and what have we been up to? All right. So as I said earlier, what you are seeing today has been part of a multi-day effort. So some of you might have been involved in our prep days. So that was the first big event that was associated with this series. That was on the 26th and 27th of September. On 26th, we had multiple talks from people who were focused on various aspects of career preparation. So for example, how to make the right first impression, how to build a strong resume, interview guidelines, how to have a strong self-presence and branding on LinkedIn and other websites. And then the second day of the prep day, the September 27th, we conducted mock interviews and resume clinics. So where we were matched with different candidates, and we had 15 minutes to 30 seconds sessions with them and answered their questions and then tried to make them well prepared for the interviews to follow in 4 different tracks: data, engineering, design, and project management. So that was the first piece of this. Then the second piece was the launching of the career map that happened earlier this week. So some of you might have seen that. If not, you should, because that's where the meat of this event lies. So it's gethired.pwic.org/map-pk. And this is where you can see all our hiring and advertising partners who are currently taking resumes and who have open positions available to you. So we have 18 companies currently participating in this Pakistan event, and we have over 120 plus open roles currently hiring from Pakistan. I hope some of you have already applied to some of these companies. If not, check them out. If you have applied, still check them out. Maybe you'll see another good position that's good fit for your skills and what you're looking for. One thing I would like to call out here is that all interviewing is happening offline. So that is to say that you will go to this career map, click on a company, apply to a position, and then you will hit a chatbot who will ask you some basic questions, some screening questions that the hiring companies have specified themselves. And then you will upload your resume. And then based on the responses to the chatbots and your resume, the companies will reach out to you directly. So they may already have reached out to you. It's possible that some of you have interviews today lined up. It's possible that some of you will get a response and get interviews scheduled after today. But the scheduling part is totally between you and the companies. So it will happen offline. The exact interviewing is not part of today's event. So then what is part of today's event? Well, today's event is mostly organized as a conference. So we have several amazing speakers. We have hiring team representatives. We'll have informational sessions. We'll have ample opportunities of networking, mentoring. And then today you will find several opportunities for learning and growth through talks, networking sessions, company booths, hiring manager connects, live Q&As, and a lot more. So before I get into a couple of more details on that event, I would like to participants are expected to be considerate, respectful, collaborative, and refrain from any demeaning, discriminatory, or harassing behavior or speech. We have a very well-defined non-discriminatory policy, which is also published on our website, which is kind of our North Star for all our events. Unacceptable behaviors include sexist, racist, or exclusionary jokes, trolling, any acts that insult or belittle any other event attendee in any way. So this will be unacceptable today or in any other event that PWIC hosts. If you see an issue or you see a misconduct, you are encouraged to report that. We will also be keeping an eye on the chat and other conversations. But if you see something, just if it's another chat message, just right click on the chat message and then report. Or you can send a direct message to the PWIC admin from attendees list with the details. And the PWIC leadership may take any action they deem appropriate for that, which may include issuing a warning or maybe expect today. So after this session, and some of you who have joined a couple of minutes earlier before we started might have seen this interface. So there are a couple of different things of interest here. On the right-hand side, you will see the list of sessions and their times. So you will see whatever is scheduled next. You will see an upcoming tag to it. Whatever has already happened, you will see it as done. And that will give you kind of a list of the events that are coming up. In our sessions today, we have, after this opening keynote, we will have the open networking time from 10 to 11:30, where there will be company tables and there will be social tables. So what do I mean by tables? That's your main screen, as you can see, the main square part of the screen. And there you can see some of the tables listed, like from table 7 to table 12. And as you can assume, there are 6 tables above that and a few after this too. So some of these tables will have company representatives on them. Other tables are topic specific and they will have people there who are experienced in those areas. So for example, we'll have someone on the track engineering table 9 who is very well versed in the engineering area and field. Similarly, track design. On table 11, data, I'll be there with my data background. Similarly, there's a simple social table where anyone can join and have a conversation. There will be tables for PWIC, and many other of our sponsors will have a table too. The seating capacity of a table is limited. As you can see, it will be maximum 8 people. So you're very welcome to join in, introduce yourself, ask questions, but then we will also request you to be considerate. And once you have had some time and have asked your questions, move around, check out some other tables so that other people can get an opportunity to have a conversation with these reps too. Then from 11:30 to 12:30, we have another round of lightning talks, 15-minute sessions. And then 12:30 onwards, there will be informational sessions by company representatives. So Optera, Affinity, and Contour will go then. Then we'll have another round of 10 table discussions and networking sessions. And then at 3, we will have more company representatives having live sessions. We will have representatives from Derive.com, Educative, Data Science Dojo, Venture Dive, and Keep Trucking. Then at 4:30, closing remarks and closing keynote. But even after that, we will keep the tables open till 6 p.m. So you will have ample opportunity throughout the day to network with the company representatives, network with people from PWIC leadership, and then just network with each other. And talking about networking with each other, another cool feature that you will find today is that on top of these tables, you will find another area which is called speed networking. So it's kind of like it randomly matches you to another attendee. So if you click on it, the system will match you to another attendee from this whoever is present there. And then you will be matched for about 7 to 8 minute session, where you can quickly just sync up with them, maybe have a connection, have some conversation. And then after 7 minutes, you can, if you are interested, you can get yourself matched with another attendee and keep the networking going that way. It's a really fun way to meet people. And since both parties are equally excited about who they're getting matched with, it brings in a lot of excitement too. So take advantage of that feature too. Having said that, I will not take much time because I know a lot of us are here to listen to Jehan, myself included. So let me briefly introduce her. So Jehan is the president of the Pakistan Software Houses Association for IT and IT-enabled services, called PASHA. She has been spearheading efforts at PASHA for past 16 years. During this time, she has been responsible for developing the PASHA brand and for creating linkages between PASHA and local and international partners. She has also set up the Nest.io, a technology incubator and accelerator, in January 2015 in Karachi. And since then, the Nest.io has incubated 200 plus startup businesses and created a strong community of young people. Jehan is a motivator, an entrepreneur, a social activist, and a strong propagator of extending the power and use of information and communication technologies to empower and enable communities. Thank you so much, Jehan, for joining us. And I will give the stage to you.
Thank you so much, Bushra. It's great to be here, and thanks to PWIC for inviting me. It's always great to be able to talk to a lot of women, especially women who are pursuing computer science. I know there must be some men amongst the participants, and that's also great because diversity means exactly that there should be people of both genders available, talking to each other, networking with each other. So let me get started on the topic that I have chosen for today, which is never underestimate yourself. So were you ever presented with an opportunity that you were really excited about, and then almost instantly you plunged into despair that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not qualified enough, whatever, to do it? Some years ago, I was faced with a really amazing opportunity. At first, I was ecstatic. It was something that I'd always wanted to do. And it had seemingly just dropped into my lap. My second emotion was pure dread, fright. I'd never done it before. I didn't know the first things about starting a project like this one. Why should I even attempt it? What if it ends up being the worst thing ever and everyone hated it? If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then you might be a man. And I don't say that disparagingly at all. It's just that tons of studies over the years have shown that men don't suffer this crippling lack of confidence in their abilities in the same way women do. Some of the most successful, brilliant, and powerful women have experienced feelings of inadequacy and have felt underqualified for their positions, even in cases where they're probably overqualified. What is the deal about this? So Cornell University did a study on this phenomenon, specifically the confidence gap between men and women. The study found that men tend to overestimate their abilities and performance, and women, on the other hand, underestimate both. And that is what many people refer to as the imposter syndrome. According to Kathy Kay and Claire Shipman, authors of The Confidence Code, The Science and Art of Self-Assurance, What Women Should Know, they say, compared with men, women don't consider themselves as ready for promotions. They predict that they will do worse on any kind of tests, and they generally underestimate their abilities. That might not seem like that big of a deal, but it really is. Kay and Shipman write that success is just as closely correlated with confidence as it is with competence. The result, despite the huge progress women have made in entering both higher education and the workforce, we are still underrepresented at the highest levels of leadership, both in the US, Europe, everywhere, and especially also in Pakistan. We're still asking for less money than men are. We're still shying away from that upward movement for fear that we aren't good enough. So the tech entrepreneur Clara Shih, who founded the successful social media company Hearsay Social in 2010 and joined the board of Starbucks at the age of 29, is one of the few female CEOs in the still macho world of Silicon Valley. But as an undergrad at Stanford, she was convinced that courses she found difficult were easy for others. She went on to graduate with the highest GPA of any computer science major in her class. She told us that at times she felt like an imposter. As it happens, this is essentially what Facebook CEO Sheryl Sandberg said a year before her book Lean In was published. There are still days I wake up feeling like a fraud, not sure I should be where I am. There is a particular crisis for women, a vast confidence gap that separates the sexes. Compared with men, women don't consider themselves as ready for promotions, and they generally underestimate their abilities. This disparity stems from factors ranging from upbringing to biology. A growing body of evidence shows just how devastating this lack of confidence can be. Success, it turns out, correlates just as closely with confidence as it does with competence. No wonder that women, despite all our progress, are still woefully underrepresented. Linda Babcock, a professor of economics at Carnegie Mellon University and the author of Women Don't Ask, has found in studies of business school students that men initiate salary negotiations 4 times as often as women do. And that when women do negotiate, they ask for 30% less money than men do. The same thing has been found at Manchester Business School in England. Professor Marilyn Davidson has seen the same phenomenon and believes that it comes from a lack of confidence. Each year, she asks her students what they expect to earn and what they deserve to earn 5 years after graduation. I've been doing this for about 7 years, she says, and every year there are massive differences between the male and female responses. On average, men think they deserve 20% more than what women say they deserve. So are male managers aware of a confidence gap between male and female employees? When this notion was raised with a number of male executives who supervised women, they expressed enormous frustration. They said they believed that a lack of confidence was fundamentally holding back women at their companies. But they had shied away from saying anything because they were terrified of sounding sexist. One male senior partner at a firm related the story of a young female associate who was excellent in every respect, except that she didn't speak up at client meetings. His takeaway was that she wasn't confident enough to handle this client's accounts. But he didn't even know how to raise the issue without causing offense. He eventually concluded that confidence should be a formal part of performance review for all employees because it's such an important aspect of doing business. While men can certainly suffer from self-doubt, I'm not saying all men are confident. Study after study shows that men are far more likely to lean towards overconfidence. That confidence manifests itself in very significant ways. Hewlett-Packard found that women working there only applied for a promotion when they thought they met 100% of the qualifications. But men were comfortable applying when they met only 60% of the qualifications. So perfectionism is another confidence killer. Study after study confirms that it is largely a female issue, one that extends through women's entire lives. We don't answer questions until we are totally sure of the answer. We don't submit a report until we've edited it ad nauseum, and we don't sign up for that triathlon unless we know we are faster and fitter than is required. We watch our male colleagues take risks while we hold back until we're sure that we are perfectly ready and perfectly qualified. We fixate on performance at home, at school, at work, at a gym, as friends, as cooks, as whatever. We want to be perfect before we take that plunge. Bob Sullivan and Hugh Thompson, the authors of The Plateau Effect, call this tendency the enemy of the good, leading as it does to hours of wasted time. The irony is that striving to be perfect actually keeps us from getting much of anything done. If women are competent and hardworking enough to outpace men in school, why is it so difficult to keep up later on? As with so many questions involving human behavior, both nature and nurture are implicated in the answers. Despite possessing the same skills and ambitions as their male counterparts, women aren't reaching the same levels of success. All of that is the bad news. The good news is that with work, confidence can be acquired, which means that the confidence gap in turn can be closed. Here's what we can do to help fix the gap. Stop trying to define confidence. Confidence, like many things, is a relative concept that comes in many forms. The definition of confidence and how it is experienced is different for everyone. The gap is in our understanding. What's important is for women and men to stay authentic to themselves. Being comfortable with who you are and what you're capable of exudes its own brand of confidence. Just as all men don't fit into the same confidence box, nor do all women. Secondly, recognize people for their abilities and not their characteristics. There is a gap in the way we assess and evaluate. What's important is to recognize talent and skills in colleagues rather than confidence levels. Self-help game plans to help women overcome their reservations and exude more confidence is missing the point. If we judge women and men on their abilities and contributions rather than character traits, we secure a more level playing field. And then embrace diversity. Offices and workplaces should strive to eliminate any unfair pay gaps and celebrate inclusivity and diversity of thought and styles, starting at the top. There is a lot to lose if everyone is forced to think and act the same way. Most of us can't just snap our fingers and become more confident in ourselves. Like most things in life, this is a process, and it's one that I'm working on myself. I'm not a confidence expert by any means, but I do think that there are some practical ways that we can fight the urge to make ourselves small in a world that desperately needs us to stand tall. That's difficult. I'm 5'2", so standing tall has always been a very difficult thing for me. So do a few things. Take credit. Women are much more likely than men to credit their success to external circumstances. We were just in the right place at the right time, or we just got lucky with that job offer, or there were many more people who were part of this success. I didn't really contribute that much. Let's take a pointer from our male counterparts and actually take credit where credit is due. You work hard. You are talented. It isn't conceited or gloating to acknowledge that you've earned the right to be where you are. Own that. Stop equating good work with perfection. Hundreds of years ago, Voltaire pinned this problem down, writing, "The perfect is the enemy of the good." I said that earlier in my talk as well. Your work is not only valuable when it's finally perfect in your eyes, it's good now. It has value now. If you wait until you feel everything is perfect to move, you will probably be still for a very long time. Thirdly, don't undervalue yourself. Economics professor Linda Babcock found in studies in business school students that men negotiate their salaries 4 times as often as women do. Research the value of your profession and don't be afraid to charge what you are worth. We only perpetuate the issue of the pay gap when we allow fear to dictate what we ask for. Not to mention creatives in particular. When you accept pennies for your hard work, you devalue the market. Know your worth and fight for it. And last but not least, forbid negative self-talk. If you want to move from a place of fear, of making mistakes, of not performing perfectly, in a place of confidence, we have to refocus our energy from scrutinizing our flaws to applauding our strengths. That doesn't mean we don't reflect and evaluate and try to become better. What it means is we don't dwell on everything that is seemingly wrong with us. When those thoughts that we've got are not good enough or smart enough, or we're not able to pull something off arise, we beat them back with the thoughts that deserve a place in our minds. We are smart, we are qualified, we are capable of a lot of things. If you take only one thing away from this speech, let it be this: dream big or dream small, it's up to you. But do not stop yourself from dreaming in the first place. It's only when you start taking yourself and your dreams seriously, only when you give them the attention they deserve, that you will find doors starting to open for you without even having to knock. You know so much more than you realize. You're smart, you're talented, and you know resilience and perseverance like no one who has preceded you. We have a tendency to never appreciate ourselves and how much greatness we have achieved until it's pointed out to us by somebody else. And these days, imposter syndrome is almost a norm. But here's the truth, that no one really says out loud. What you think of yourself and how you treat yourself will always be more important than what others think of you and how they treat you. Trust your struggle. No one else has gone through it but you. Don't wait for anyone else to tell you the solutions. Don't let them dictate how you act, speak, or behave. Don't let anyone else define who you are and what you're capable of. And don't just dream about it either. Our task is to make trouble. I'm a troublemaker. So don't waste the chance to stir up change by underestimating your strength, your ideas, and your ability to persevere through the worst of times. Your generation, more than mine, has already begun creating a culture of individuals who are more tolerant, empathetic, and entrepreneurial. I always sort of never can get that word right. With the ability to listen to others, collaborate with with their communities, that is unique and a herald of hope for the future. PWIC is an example of that. You've worked hard, and while it may sound like an understatement, you have sacrificed a lot to get where you are, both as a collective and as individuals. The real world has always been brutal, and now more so than ever. But please don't let this fool you into thinking that you can't do whatever you want to. The chaos of your present is unprecedented, but bad things are always followed by good. And we've already had plenty of bad. So I think good is sure to follow. Prepare yourselves for the good by believing in yourselves and working on creating the future you want to live in. Have hope, dream deeply, and don't let fear hold you back from anything. Be open, be hopeful, be ready to make history. A lesson learned should be a lesson shared, and the lesson I want to leave you with is this: never underestimate your potential. You are the leader of your life, and you decide the path and the pace. It is your footsteps that the future generations will be following. So make sure there's something worth stepping into. You have overcome struggles and adversities, not just of the global challenges, but on a personal level as well. Every single one of you has gone above and beyond what was expected of you, even from yourselves, and have come out of it smarter, stronger, with more understanding and empathy for your fellow human beings, be it across the street or across the world. So take hold of this opportunity and go as far as you can. Thank you very much. And now if there are any questions, I would love to answer them.
So there have been a few questions that are submitted, Jehan. I'll read through them.
Yeah, please.
So this one is from Anna Makhtar, and she's saying that I work very hard, but I still feel I'm not expert in any of my fields of interest. What should I do?
So, Anam, if you work very hard, I think perhaps you're doubting yourself. If you're working hard, you're continuously learning from whether it is resources that are available or from people that you know, then perhaps you are doubting how much you know. And that often happens to us as women. If there are certain areas that you're interested in, you will go into as much depth as possible. And you will learn. And that means from what you learn, you will then experience, and then you will use that towards any solution that you are working on. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know you personally, so I can't really evaluate, but you're the best person to evaluate yourself. And I think perhaps take a look again and see if you're doubting yourself for no reason. Because we women tend to do that. We ask too many questions of ourselves, and we don't appreciate ourselves enough.
We ask too many questions of ourselves. Exactly. Very well said. And on the same line, there's another question that, how do we start taking credit and not feel we are bragging?
So learn from your male counterparts. So I think the tone is important, to be serious. And many men also find this difficult. It really depends on who you are, how you've been brought up, and what you've been told is bragging and what is not. So if you've done something, you don't need to say, oh, I did this. But you need to say, something like, okay, these are the things, these are the steps that I took when I was looking at this. And then maybe ask the people that you're talking to, is there something that you can contribute to making this better? That way you're talking about your achievement without making it sound as if you're bragging. But yes, you have to take credit. Otherwise, I find that women don't blow their own trumpets, and very often people that they're working with do not realize that they are responsible for some of the success that the company that the company has achieved, or the organization, whether it's a university or whether it's in the corporate sector. Very often, because your male counterparts very often are bragging, are taking credit for things, even those things that they haven't done themselves or have only played a small part in, they're taking credit for it. And if you keep quiet, then your superiors will assume that you had no role to play. So don't think of it as bragging. I think the tone is important and the context is important. So make sure that you are inclusive, but make sure that people know what role you had to play in a particular situation. That's very important.
Make sure you're inclusive and yet people know what role you have played. Beautifully said. Another question by Farah Ali. What are 2 tips that you think can help when we find ourselves second guessing our decisions?
That's a tough one. We always second guess our decisions. But I think the best way to figure it out is I always make a list of do's and don'ts. And so if I'm making a decision and I say, okay, what's right about this decision and what's wrong? And once I've noted it all down, it has more clarity. And maybe if you have a friend or a colleague that you trust a lot, share with them and try and get their feedback to see that you're making the right decision. So not every decision you're going to make is going to be correct. I've made some really wrong decisions in my life, and I think everybody does. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. You do make mistakes, but you must make sure that you learn from those mistakes and don't make them again. So yeah, check them out. Make sure, get feedback from somebody you trust before you actually jump in. But I think without jumping in, you're never going to know whether the decision is the right one or not.
Yeah, jump in and then figure out along the way. Yeah. Rightly said. Another question by Zubia Badr. Being women in tech, we are massively outnumbered by men in the industry. And sometimes they have an unfair advantage as they have friendships and relationships that help them get more exposure, projects, promotions, etc. How do you suggest to deal with that? The disadvantages of being outnumbered?
Yeah. So we need to work on making sure that the numbers become much more reasonable. But, this is always going to be the case. Even with years of experience, even now, I know that my colleagues very often meet on the golf course, very often meet late at night and spend half the night chatting. They build relationships that you and I cannot, perhaps because we have multiple roles to play. responsibilities for family, for the community, and all of that. So we will miss out on the opportunities. And also sometimes I think it's such a waste of time just sitting there and, chatting late into the night when you could be doing something that is much more productive. So I think women probably don't want to hang out with everyone and anyone. And so, yes, that relationship building suffers. But if you're good at what you do and you continue to make sure that the company and your boss know what kind of impact you're creating, the relationships will not really matter in the end. They want their company to progress. They don't want friendships are aside. They want to make sure that they have people on their boards and in their teams who are actually creating value for the company. So yes, the numbers are small. We need to increase the numbers. And to increase the numbers means that we should convince more people to come into the workforce, more women to come into the workforce and stay in the workforce. But that means that men and women who are leading companies need to make sure that the kind of environments, the kind of culture they provide in the companies is suitable for women to work. The flexi hours matter, the daycares matter, the fact that there is no harassment in the workplace matters. So I was really happy to hear Bushra talk about what is not acceptable. I think this is extremely important because sometimes people don't know what they're doing is really very harmful for anybody else who's sharing that same space. So I think it is happening in Pakistan. I've seen also that companies are creating those spaces because they realize the value that women are bringing into their company. A lot of my friends who are men say that the best hires they've ever had are women. And they are much more competent. They get work done in a shorter period of time. So they don't show just by sticking around at the organization till, midnight that we are hard workers. They actually show it through the value they create. So I think it's something that we will have to work on. This is not only in Pakistan, but everywhere around the world. The numbers of women in science and technology needs to increase because women add a lot of value. And without that value, a lot of good things that should be happening in the space are not happening.
True that. And thank you for acknowledging and appreciating our anti-harassment policy. And I agree with you. A lot of people are not necessarily bad people. They just don't realize that some behaviors are extremely harmful. They just consider it a joke, but the way it lands on other people, it's extremely psychologically damaging.
Yeah.
All right. Making sure that the gentlemen in our audience don't feel left out. Here's a question from Shariz Khan, and he's talking about the pay parity. That he's asking that is this a much larger issue in Pakistan that men or women are both getting paid too low as compared to the profits that the companies make? Maybe not all companies do that, but maybe some are doing that.
That's true. But then it's, if a company is doing that, that means that they don't have the right vision and they don't have the right leadership, because you can't continue to pay your good employees less money and expect the kind of value that they're able to create. So yes, you're right. There are some companies that are not paying the kind of salaries that they should pay or the kind of benefits that you should have. But those are people who are thinking very short term. The good companies, the companies that want to keep you on their payroll, they want you to be with them long term. They want you to consider that you are, they want you to own the company and actually, create much more value. They're the ones who are going to pay you what you deserve. Sometimes you need to speak up. Whether you're a man or a woman, you need to talk to your leadership. Tell them how you feel. Not just get up and leave and join another company. Talk to them, because if you like what the company is doing, if you're learning, if you are contributing, if you like the people you work with, then perhaps this is something you need to bring up, because perhaps they're just missing something. They haven't thought about it. Maybe they think they're being fair and they're not. I think a conversation always helps. And if they still don't listen, then maybe it's time to move.
Yes. There are a number of other questions. It's so much interest in the talk and the topic, Jahanara, but in the interest of time and respecting your time, we'll call the session close the session now. But all these questions that the audience is sharing, we'll take them and we'll convey them to Jehanara, and maybe we'll hear back from her and we'll make sure that we convey the answers back. Thank you so much, ma'am. We know you are extremely busy.
Thank you so much, Bushra, for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I have great admiration for the work that PWIC does. And if there's any way that I can help contribute to making it a stronger organization, you have only to ask.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, really. It's really with mentors and supporters like you that we are able to do what we are doing. Thank you.